It's pretty unusual for someone's first ever formal role in politics to be as Prime Minister. But that's where we're at right now. Mark Carney is Canada's new Prime Minister. How did he get here? What happens next? Let's take a look. Hi, you're watching Gabby on Government. I'm Gabby, and I'm an ordinary Canadian on a journey to learn about my government. I'm so happy you're joining me on today's journey, where I'll be talking about Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, how he got here, and what's next. So, who is Mark Carney? Carney started out from a pretty normal family. His mom worked as a stay-at-home mom, and his dad was a school principal. He is the third of 4 children, and he was born up in the Northwest Territories. He moved to Edmonton at 6 years old. His rise seems to have started when he won a scholarship to go to Harvard in the US. This started his path in elite academics. He went on to complete a master's and PhD in economics at Oxford. He met his wife at Oxford, and they have 4 children together. He loves hockey and played throughout all of his studies. After university, he went on to spend 13 years at the investment bank Goldman Sacs, and then the next 5 years in the upper echelons of the Department of Finance Canada. Carney's breakthrough role, and how most Canadians know him, is as the governor of the Bank of Canada during the 2008 financial crisis during the Harper government. Carney worked in coordination with then Finance Minister Jim Flaherty. There's a lot to say about this time, but since Canada did significantly better than the rest of the world during this crisis, he gained a very positive reputation. He went on to be the governor of the Bank of England from 2013 to 2020 with mixed reviews. Between 2020 and now, Carney has been bouncing around a few little gigs like advising the Trudeau government and sitting as a board member for Brookfield, a huge Canadian-American investment management company. Do I like Carney? Why, thank you for asking. I'll have to do a video about it before I can say for sure. On the plus side, he has a lot of real-life experience in the banking industry and in government finances, and he is highly educated. He also seems to be very well-spoken and very statesmanly, which maybe is a lot to ask these days. On the minus side, being Prime Minister is literally his first political job. I don't know that this has ever happened before in Canadian history, but this maybe is a North American trend. Apparently his French is bad, not that I would be able to tell. He also spent about half of his time living outside of Canada since high school. But maybe that's not a bad thing? That's as far as I'll go for now. So, Carney is Prime Minister. How did this happen? Well, this is some big political drama. So, Trudeau's approval ratings have been declining slowly since the beginning of the pandemic. Most people expected Trudeau to run and bomb in the next general election. That is, until his second in command, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, resigned at the beginning of the year. When Freeland resigned, this was the last nail in the coffin for Trudeau as Prime Minister. He resigned shortly after. To understand what happens next, we have to get pretty technical, so buckle up. There are 2 types of elections that happen at the federal level. So there are general elections, and these are the kinds of elections most Canadians are familiar with. Everyone in Canada goes to the polls on the same day and votes for who they want to be their local member of parliament. The party with the most MPs voted in is rewarded with their party leader being declared the Prime Minister. The other type of election that happens at the federal level is a leadership election. The purpose of a leadership election is to elect the new leader of a particular political party. The timing of leadership elections is much more complicated, but they typically happen after a party leader resigns. Every party goes through leadership elections from time to time. And since Trudeau just resigned, this is the type of election that just happened. But this leadership election was special. When a prime minister resigns, like was just the case for Canada, something really strange happens. A new general election isn't triggered, and there is no vice president type of role for someone new to take over. Instead, a leadership race is triggered for the party in power, and the winner is the new prime minister. That means we get a new prime minister who is not elected by the Canadian public. The only people who can vote in the leadership race are card-carrying members of the party in power. In this case, the Federal Liberal Party. But the situation we are in now gets even stranger. Usually, Liberals can only vote for someone who is a sitting Liberal MP, someone who is voted in by everyday Canadians and have a home riding. For example, the candidates for this leadership election were Chrystia Freeland, the MP for University Rosedale in Toronto, Karina Gould, the MP for Burlington, and Frank Baylis, the MP for Pierrefonds-Dollard in Montreal. But someone else threw their hat in the ring. Mark Carney, who is a regular old member of the Liberal Party. He is not an MP, and at the time of him running, he held no elected position. He does not have a home riding. This is a very important point. In Canada, prime ministers are almost always MPs with a home riding. Despite his lack of political experience, and likely because of it, he won the leadership contest by a landslide and became the Prime Minister of Canada as his first political job. Wild. When a prime minister is elected in this way, normally a general election is called soon after. I'm not totally sure what the mechanics of this looks like, but I think that in this situation, the general election is almost always called by the party in power before the next parliamentary session begins. Before the general election is called, Carney has two main tasks: choose a cabinet, check, and choose a riding. This is where things get awkward. Carney is going to want to choose what is called a safe riding. For him, this means a riding where Liberals almost always win. But the ridings where Liberals almost always win, well, they probably have a very content Liberal MP happily awaiting the next election where they will easily win their seat back. So Carney is going to have to hip check one of these cheery Liberals out of their seat so he can run in their place. This MP will probably be quite pissed, and their constituency may be too. After all, they will have someone representing their interests in Parliament who may not have any ties to the area. Okay, so now let's say Carney has his cabinet and he is the Liberal representative for some unsuspecting Canadians. Going forward, there are a few key possibilities. First scenario, he wins his riding and the Liberals win a plurality of seats. This is Carney's best case scenario. He has a seat and he remains prime minister. Second scenario, he wins his riding, but the Liberals do not have enough seats to form a minority. This is bad for the Liberals, but okay for Carney. He gets a seat in Parliament and remains the leader of the Liberal Party. Still a big role. Third scenario, he loses in his riding, but the Liberals win a plurality of the seats. This is an unlikely scenario, but would be very awkward for Carney if it were to happen. If this happened, it is possible for Carney to continue to be the prime minister without also being an MP, while a different minister would be the parliamentary leader. It has happened twice in Canadian history in the late 1800s that senators have acted as Canada's prime minister. But I honestly don't know if this is still possible in Canada, or if a non-senator is allowed to be prime minister. It would be really strange. So what would actually happen if Carney doesn't win his seat? I have no idea. The fourth possibility, of course, is that the Conservatives win the election, Carney loses his seat, and the Liberal leadership election is called all over. If this happens, Carney may gain the title of Canada's shortest-serving prime minister. So, what do you think? Will Mark Carney make it past the general election? Will you vote for the Liberals in the upcoming election? What the heck is even going on in Canadian politics right now? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm not an expert, so if I got something wrong or you want to add something, let me know in the comments. I think learning about civics is super important. So if you want to help other people find my content, I would be so grateful if you would like this video, share it, and subscribe. Thanks, and see you next time.